All right, 1 second. All right. And do you want me kicking off?
Yeah, that'd be great. And then I'll pick up.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We here are tonight meeting about the Lincoln Park pool replacement project. The past few years, we've been working with Weston and Sampson, and one of the things that we've looked at in the past 6 months was being able to reach out to the community, more in-depth feedback as to what the community would like to see as far as the Lincoln Park pool replacement project. So tonight we're going to go through a little bit of a presentation as to some of the where we're at, what the condition, the history of the pool, and give some technical information regarding the condition of the pool overall, as well as be able to answer questions toward the end. This is going to be the start of the process. It's going to go run throughout the summer. I'm currently here at Lincoln Park Pool. We're getting ready for the summer launch, and we're going to be collecting feedback all throughout the summer. And this is one of a few open house or event style activities where we're gaining feedback from individuals. So I'll be kicking over to Dan, but if we can get through the presentation and save questions for the end, we'll do our best to get to every single one of them.
Thanks, Justin. And sorry, I'm going to keep my camera off just so I have good clarity while I'm speaking. But for those of you that aren't familiar, I'm Dan Biggs with Weston & Sampson. We're a multidisciplinary planning and design firm here with an office in Albany, about 700 staff, mostly along the eastern seaboard, and composed of engineers, surveyors, aquatic designers, landscape architects, scientists, and inspectors. We've been supporting the city of Albany on this project, and we're really excited to kick off the public engagement process to see it moving forward and hopefully come to a solution that's sustainable for over 100 years in the future, we hope. A little bit about tonight about our project goal. Our goal for this project is to plan and design a new state-of-the-art aquatic facility to replace the failing Lincoln Park pool. In order to get to that goal, we have many objectives, which I'm going to cover tonight. This can get very technical, but we're trying to keep it enough in layman's terms and just relate back to how people can just truly understand this pool and the complexities of it. So as I mentioned, objectives are to facilitate public engagement process, which are kicking off tonight. We want to identify the desired features and characteristics of a pool, and then develop the preferred layout and the supporting amenities around the pool. So not only the basin itself, but also what's more or less enclosed within the fence line to make this a great facility. We want to make sure that anything we're designing is meeting the current New York State Department of Health requirements, as well as respecting the New York State Historic Preservation Office requirements for this site. And I'll run through a number of these items here in a moment. First, let's go back in a little bit of time. For those that aren't familiar, Lincoln Park Pool is set over what was called Beaver Kill Creek. In the mid 1700s to 1800s, this area was the site of a large brewery and brickyard. And then along the creek, the brewery and brickyard worked for so long. Eventually, this creek handled stormwater and likely sanitary sewer water. And it was tunneled. So about 60 feet below Lincoln Park Pool is a tunnel system that basically runs from Park Ave to Swan Street. It's still there today. It's monstrous. But that system was really covered over to make the land flat for what is now Lincoln Park Pool. In 1930, the ravine was filled in and the pool was placed. The report goes that we read from the 1931 engineer's report from the city is that even 1 year after being constructed, this pool was leaking substantially. It is a large body of water, and they knew that there was something happening. Originally, the pool was designed to not have a filtration system, what we call a flow-through system, where basically open the hydrant, fill up the body of water, and any dirty water would flow out the drain. It was later retrofitted a couple years later to add a filtration system in the bottom of Lincoln Park Pool Bathhouse. But just for perspective, the pool's been leaking for over 90 years, and I'll run through some of those numbers. It's astounding as how much water has been donated to the Hudson River. So first, a little about the pool itself. It is huge. The pool is about 5 times the size of an Olympic pool. For those that may have been watching the Olympic trials last week, they swim in a 50-meter pool. So it's 5 of those. The surface area, and I have here in a table comparison between the Lincoln Park pool and Olympic pool. So the surface area is 1.6 acres. In comparison to Olympic pool is 0.3 acres. The water volume, 1.18 million gallons of water compared to 660,000. So that's just significantly more water. The pool length currently is about 295 to 300 feet long and wide, as where Olympic pool in feet is 165 by 82 or so. Pools can have various depths. This pool is about 6 to 8 feet, depends on where you're measuring due to some of the settling. And Olympic pool can be up to 12 feet or even more if it has a diving well for that matter. This pool, obviously, has no lanes. An Olympic pool has usually 10 lanes with some buffer area on the side. But just to really gather and think about this facility, 2 Little League baseball fields or 10 basketball courts can fit within this water body area. So it's enormous water body and size, just for perspective. So the city has done a number of things over the years, but really it's been to support the supplemental services for the pool itself. Dating back to 2001 and even before that, the filtration system was replaced. There's been bathhouse renovations. There has been some stabilizations because there's some settling of the bathhouse. And then as recent as 2018, the Park Master Plan identified the need to have the pool replaced, refurbished. Since then, as Justin attests to, as he's getting startup going, there's annual repairs, many significant emergency fixes, and really just band-aids happening to this pool just to make sure that it can open on an annual basis as best as the city can to date. But no significant repairs have been invested into this pool over the last 90 years for perspective. So you might ask yourself, well, what's the problem? Okay, they knew it was leaking. Currently, the pool does not meet current New York State Department of Health code requirements. Due to its age, a lot of the conditions, I want to say, are grandfathered. So the problems that are had now, if anything is to be touched in this pool, it has to be brought up to current code. There are significant cracks throughout the basin itself, leading to significant leaks. The bottom of the pool has been settling. For any of you that have been in the pool in the last couple of years, you can see that the deck area is fairly uneven around the perimeter. So the concrete area around the perimeter of the water body is uneven. It should be even all around if it's to be a properly balanced water facility. So that is just evidence that it has settled over time, and all that fill in the Beaver Kill Creek has settled unevenly, leading to structural deficiencies below the pool itself. So as a result of not being level, the gutter and drain system really aren't effective. The water really doesn't even reach to most of the gutters. So they rely on the center drain just to intake the water, go through the filtration system as best they can, and return the water back to the pool. I mentioned that the filtration system was upgraded in the past, but really, if you look at the pictures, the lower left-hand corner in the middle, they're monstrous and they're extremely outdated for current code and current standards for a water body of this size. The water currently turns over water as best it can, but it really has a poor turnover rate and a bad mixing. So the water body is so large, you need to turn over the water. Current standard is 6 hours for the entire water body and 2 hours on the perimeter, the shallower areas. But really, that's 1.65 million gallons of water turning over every 6 hours. So basically, the whole thing turns over in a little less than a day. So just for perspective, that is 4,000 gallons per minute. Sorry, 4,600 gallons per minute of water turning through. And if you think about your kitchen sink, that's about 2 gallons per minute when you open the spigot all the way. So it's a lot of water flowing to circulate through this pool and really to have a water body to meet the current code standards for that 6-hour turnover rate or greater. A lower right-hand corner is just a perspective of a modern filtration system. Obviously, this is a small picture of a larger system, but most equipment nowadays on all of our pools are electronically monitored, fairly easy to have staff maintain, to inject chlorination, really to have a state-of-the-art system to really ensure that water quality is maintained and it's safe for the staff as well as the participants or patrons using the water by itself. So beyond the linking mechanical concerns, I mentioned it leaks water. It leaks about 400 to 500,000 gallons of water a day. Perspective is the tank on the left-hand side is a 500,000 gallon storage tank. So that amount of water is going to the Hudson in one day. So what does that mean? It's hard to even think about that volume of water. That's about 16,000 bathtubs in our houses a day. That's enormous amounts of water. And just perspective, it's just under half of the entire pool capacity is flowing out of the drain each day. So we know that's failing water. It's basically leaving the system, resulting in the need for the hydrant to be opened and taking water from a reservoir and refilling this pool on a daily basis at a pretty large clip. So beyond the leaking, beyond mechanical, we have inherent safety concerns for the pool. The layout and the shape, although the zero entry is a fantastic quality of this pool, it really makes it hard for patrons to enter the pool or to exit the pool for that matter, especially if they're distressed. Think about the guards that have to monitor and watch this pool. They're constantly scanning the pool. They have to be within a close proximity to save a patron that's distressed. So in order, the size, the scale, the shape, really all those factors lead to a challenging situation to really maintain and create a safe environment for patrons to use this pool facility. The shape of the pool prevents ladders from being installed. As you know, it has a low spot in the middle and the perimeter zero entry surround. So really, it's hard to get in and out effectively, especially if you're in the deep end, you need to get out. You have to basically swim half of the length of the pool of sort to get to the edge or the zero entry side. This makes harder for not only for use, daily use, but also just for programming of activities, whether it's for water games, activities, programming for swim lessons. It just really creates a challenging situation for recreational use within the pool. And a little tip at the bottom, lifeguards need to get to distressed swimmer within 20 seconds or so. That just means that guards are, as you see in the picture on the right-hand side, positioned halfway into the water body, just so that they can have that quick response access to distressed swimmer. That's resulting in 22 guards at a time to cover the entire pool. And if we don't have that ability to staff, then portions of the pool are shut down due to safety concerns. So a couple of things, reasons for a new facility. First, it's not feasible to reconstruct or repair the pool in its current configuration. A new facility has to be redesigned for the following reasons. I mentioned the grandfathered code review right now. Due to its age, when it was constructed, anything that gets touched has to meet the current modern codes. So in time, if you touch it, you fix it. So the cracking of the pool shell causes leaks and has settlement. You can't just have a spot improvement. That's a fairly invasive repair to really fix the shell. So you're ultimately digging down or fixing the substrate and the foundations of this pool for anything that would happen in this location. I mentioned the filtration system is not being efficient and it's fairly outdated. There's a number of dead spots, called dead spots, but areas where the circulation does not meet current requirements. So in order to meet those recirculation rate requirements, you have to basically add more inlets, upgrade the filtration system to basically maintain and have the proper turnover. Mentioned the gutter does not work in majority of the pool. So in order to have a properly configured pool, you need to have what we call the surge or overflow. And this is area where basically the gutters contain the water as it runs up the side. So you need to make sure that those are properly designed and functioning. Currently, turnover rate is 8 hours just due to grandfathered code requirements. But any future facilities have to have actually 6 hours, which currently can't meet with any of the filtration systems. And portions of the pool have to meet a 2-hour turnover rate. So that's a tremendous amount of water has to turn over within less than 1 day period. Mentioned demarcation of the water depths. The current configuration is really difficult for users or even guards to orient themselves as to where the shallow and deep water areas are, adding to safety concerns with the current configuration. There's ladders I mentioned. Ladders required to have access on the sides, and really the current shape does not allow for ladders in efficient egress from the deeper areas of the pool. As mentioned earlier, the swimmers really can't access the pool quickly or safely as necessary due to the shape. That's a challenge from a safety standpoint. And overall, it has a significant number of guards required on duty to maintain and handle the size and shape of this facility. As of today, a pool of this size and shape would not be permitted by New York State Department of Health and really cannot be recreated in its current configuration and to be code compliant. So with that, many have said, well, wait a second, isn't it historic? And yes, the Lincoln Park is listed on New York State in the National Registry of Historic Places. That is a fact. We have been in discussions with the New York State Historic Preservation Office about this and the need for the pool since due to its continuous challenges and leaking issues. And they're aware of the current situation. The request that they did make was to say that any new design needs to meet the current codes, and they agree with that. And any new design that would go into this facility, we need to just document for archival purposes what was once there and what the condition of the pool has been, and to retain as many of the features as possible, whether it's the pylons, those yellow bollards in the middle of the pool area, or the center platform, or other characteristics that can be retained as extent possible to pay homage to what the pool has been. So with that, we know there's a need to have the pool replaced. We need to really come up with what's the right solution for the community and for the city. And there's really a need for having input. And that's why we're here today for our call to really get input from everyone. And we believe the best way to do this is from a multi-pronged approach. So starting today through August, we've set up a project advisory committee, and I'll cover that in a minute, We're gonna have multiple open houses. We'll have an online survey they can take from your phones or computers. We're gonna have a dot survey, and I'll cover all these topics here in a minute. A dot survey where you can actually vote as you're walking into the bathhouse, entering the pool. We're going to attend multiple pop-up events throughout the summer, and then we'll have a workshop meeting later this summer to develop ideas and to really capture all the feedback that's gathered throughout the summer. So the first, there's been questions about what is the PAC? The PAC is a project advisory committee that we've set up, really composed of residents and community members from the following groups to participate and to give guidance to the project. The first, in no particular order, Lincoln Park Alliance, South End Neighborhood Association, A Block at a Time, A Village, Hudson Park Neighborhood Association, Delaware Avenue Neighborhood Association, Albany County Legislature, Albany City Common Council. We're gonna have one of the guards from Lincoln Park Pool on the committee, as well as a certified pool operator of a local pool facility give some on the ground perspective. So that's one component. Another component, really I wanted to run through of all those aspects is how does this roll out into our strategy for the upcoming months? So we had our first PAC meeting last week at the pool. We had a meeting yesterday, a presentation to all the lifeguards and staff, basically this presentation to them so they're familiar with the process. They can provide valuable input as guards and workers and patrons of the pool. We have tonight's virtual open house. And then later this week, we're gonna unveil the online survey for everyone's input. Then starting once the pool is open, as I mentioned, you'll be able to walk through the bathhouse. We'll have staff on hand to take voting and get a preference survey as you walk in and give dots. And we'll be able to record everyone that's giving the input through that process. Then in early August, we're going to have a second PAC meeting, review any data that we've received to date, and then host a second virtual open house where we're going to basically share with everyone what we've heard to date and start developing what the wish list is for this facility. Later that month, we're going to have another PAC meeting that talks about the wish list that we heard from the second virtual open house. We're going to attend multiple pop-up events from the South End Market, the Play Streets, and other activities happening around Lincoln Park. And then we're going to host a workshop meeting at the bathhouse where we're going to roll up our sleeves, scratch some ideas on paper as to what can happen from the wish list, and really develop what Lincoln Park could look like here in the near future. In September, just after kids go back to school, and it's hard to believe that that's at the end of summer already, but we'll review with the PAC the workshop results, and then we'll go back to a virtual open house to share what we heard from the workshop, the wish list, and have a number of alternatives pulled together for input and voting. So we want to hear as to which maybe a preference, and maybe it's one that hasn't been envisioned thus far, maybe it's a meshing of a couple alternatives, but that's where you really want to get some votes to understand which is preferred. Finally, early October, we're going to have another PAC meeting to review that feedback, and then have a final virtual open house where we'll present the alternatives, make a final recommended alternative, and really come to what the preferred solution is for this facility. And finally, in November, we'll come back to the PAC and share a wrap up of the engagement process. And really that's a stepping stone of the design process for early 2022. So really quickly, I want to just run through what you would see if you walk through the bathhouse or enter the pool. We're going to have two boards on the walls, one board upper left-hand corner, and don't try and squint, it'll be a large scale on the wall, but it's a little bit of the history we covered tonight, just some of the volume and the size of the pool comparison, a little bit of the background. And then the board on the bottom is where you'll be given dots to place your votes on either what facilities you like to see, what programs, amenities you might want to see, and what site amenities would be your preference surrounding and supporting the pool itself. So I'm going to run through each of these just since it's hard to see in the screen. And this would also be a part of the online survey to get feedback here in the near future. So a couple things to bring out in no particular order. The zero entry, we acknowledge, that's a great asset of any facility. Having the ability to walk into the pool, users of all ages and abilities can really walk right into and not have to jump off the ledge. So zero entry or ADA access. There's idea of possibly having lanes so we can host either swimming lessons or lap sessions for youth or adults at different times of day, really to have that recreation component brought into the use of this pool facility. Idea of having either a spray pad or a splash pad, some may call it, nearby, adjacent to the pool itself, or possibly having some of those features brought into the pool so that there'd be a portion that could have stand under the waterfall feature or dumping a bucket while you're in the pool itself as a play component within the overall water body. There's been ideas of possibly incorporating a lazy river component or a wave pool. Again, these are features that do take a decent amount of size. So although there may be a preference for a couple of these, obviously not every single one of them could fit into the same area. So that's where we have our workshop session. We'll try to work together to see what is the right blend of each of these desired features to work in and around this 1.6 acre space of the pool by itself. Others are spaces to have either aquatic sports or athletics, from water volleyball or water basketball, lap lane markings for either swimming or swim lessons, competition, or simple recreation exercising. It's always a joy to have a diving board or slides or even some newer aspects of climbing walls for youth or even adults to be able to climb up over the water and then get to the top and drop back. Different amenities to support play within the pool areas. And from the programming side, really allowing and enabling the ability for youth and adults to have swim classes and lessons, really to know how to swim is a really key feature for anyone growing up and be able to be safe from water bodies. But also having especially adult classes for those that can swim, or scuba, training of lifeguards. There's always a demand for lifeguards in the area, or simply having aerobics, which may appeal to a senior population within the area. Supporting the water feature itself, the water by itself, think of how to use the landscape or the areas around the pool, either having an amphitheater or a lawn seating space, so those that don't want to sit up on the deck in the hot sun might be able to sit into lawn space, spread out a blanket, have a picnic, or simply sit there and watch your kids play within the water at the pool itself. Idea to support with a concession area, seating, shade shelter. It gets hot in the summer, so having a space to go and enjoy a refreshment, ice cream cone, or simply just get out of the pool for a little while may be a desire. Mentioned shade not only for concessions, but just simple shade around the pool space, different configurations, different sizes, and simply just having a lawn and open space to surround the pool for those that want to enjoy the grass and the landscaping areas around the pool itself. Has been talks in at least the master planning process of incorporating a playground feature, or possibly having some other recreational volleyball courts or other play recreational features, bocce, horseshoe, something along those lines. So spaces where you can have other recreations that support the use around within the pool area itself. So to recap, I covered a lot of what the public engagement strategy is, and I gave a little snippet on what we'll be looking for here over the summer. But really what we're trying to get to is by the end or middle of October of having the final recommended alternative, but really gaining input over the next several months as we roll through the summer, either from those attending the pool itself on a daily basis, to an online survey, or to multiple virtual open houses that'll be entertained throughout the summer months. So our process, we're in public engagement now, upper left-hand corner. We have not designed anything. We don't have any preconceived notions what this has to be, but we'll then take the ideas for public engagement, roll into concept designs, August, November, and then that starts the design process for design through 2022. And to note that construction is to be determined. There isn't funding allocated for this project as of yet. We're just trying to set the stage to how can we make a safe and useful pool facility at Lincoln Park for generations to come. So with that, appreciate your time in attending tonight's meeting. We want to open up for questions, and I think our administrator is going to either activate or let you know if you are a speaking person. But please, if we can't hear questions, feel free to type in the chat and we'll just reiterate those questions for all to hear. Thank you.
So our first raised hand is from phone number 518-859-5219. You've been asked to unmute and you can speak now.
Hello, yeah, this is Dominic Calcelaro. I'm a former council member that actually used to represent this area at one time. We've already gone, it kind of like doing a lot of stuff over we don't need. We've already had meetings. We've already had a dot thing. We've already had the community come out and say they want to keep the pool the way it is. And as I wrote in the chat, I'm sure in today's day and age, there's a way to recycle water and get it back into the pool once it's designed so that it's not leaking, so all the water isn't going down the drain. They do it in housing complexes today. They recycle the water. They even recycle it from toilet bowls and reuse the water today. So it's nothing new. It's not a new idea. It's been done. It can be done. So it's something I would like you to look at. As you can see in the chart, people want this pool the way it is. It was built around the same time my mother was 89 years old. She lived right across the street from this pool. It was built, and she's still alive, and I don't want to see her rebuilt. So I really, we want the pool the way it is. He's already got it. Save some of these meeting times. You don't need to do the dots. They've already been done. And we would like that. And as I wrote to, I would like to see somebody from the state come in and explain why it's impossible to build a pool 90 years after it was already built, the same design that can meet health department codes. To me, it's a ridiculous thing to say due to upgrades, due to new engineering, due to everything else that has happened in 90 years, that this pool could have been built 90 years ago, and you're telling us we can't do it today? Come on now, please. We're not that stupid, and don't talk to us like we are. We want you to go back, look how to design the pool the way it is, and come back and say, this is what we can do, and we can add these other amenities. That's what the people want. The people in the community want it. The Times Union wrote about this almost 30 years ago now, when they were talking about taking the pool out then, explained how it's an oasis in the city, it's a meeting place for the city, it brings uptown and downtown together at this pool, where we have all this violent stuff going on now, and then you want to change it. It makes no sense to me. And believe me, I represented people for 12 years on the council, neighborhood association president for years before that, head of a South End program, Read and Seed for years before that. I know what the people want, and that's what they want. End of my diatribe.
Our next raised hand is Marie B.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So my question is, if your goal in all of these meetings that you're talking about that are going to be happening in the future is to work with the community, and the community has clearly said very, very, very loudly, because you had to do all of that buffering in your presentation, that they want the same pool. Has the city asked an engineering consulting company to try their damnedest to make the same pool? And every time they reach an obstacle, like the codes, to try and find a solution for it? And if so, can those engineers present to the people what they tried, like 350 horsepower pumps to cycle at a 6-hour rate, and which specific code they came across, and then reach out to the community for solutions? Like the lifeguarding solution, reach out to the community to ask, what programs do you think we could get young people involved in early to become lifeguards? We need 22 lifeguards. We need 44 lifeguards, whatever. Like, do you propose, community, as a solution? You want this pool so hard, we'll fight for it. Clearly, that's what we're doing. Thank you.
All right, Maria, I believe just to reiterate the question, to make sure I'm hearing correctly, you want to say, has the city reached out to engineers? Is that correct? Regarding the current state of the pool?
I'm not asking, did you reach out to engineers and say, can you please give us a bunch of great pool designs? We need to redesign this. That's one question. That's a great question. That engineers love that question. Oh, you want me to design something and make something awesome out of something that's crappy and falling apart and be like the redesigner of this huge, beautiful space and have the notoriety of my name on it? Engineers love that. But instead, have you asked a consulting firm, we want this pool. What can you do to give us this pool? Or have you put that out to bid? We want this pool. We're going to send this suggestion out to bid and then come back to us and give us your solution for codes. Like, how come you're able to say you guys can have a zero entry pool, but then you're saying that zero entry pools have to have ladders according to code? How did that work? So tell us the specific codes and the specific problems and put it out to bid as a problem that you're looking for a solution for, not an open-ended question.
So just to follow up on the question, to answer the question as best as we can, Weston and Sampson, the architectural firm and engineering firm, they were the company that was awarded the contract. They were charged with finding out the information. They were able to obtain information regarding the codes, which we can't change the codes. So the design has to meet the codes. As that we are modernizing a pool, whether it's the same exact facility or anything different in general, it has to meet the codes. So in doing so, the research that they've done, which we will be able to share in more detail during the summer, we can post the information that was gathered at the Lincoln Park pool. As well as we can work on other avenues of being able to share with the community the data that was found. But in summation, it was found that the design of the pool, the shape of the pool, as it is, does not meet code and would not meet code for the health department's considerations. With that, the idea of, and part of the State Historic Preservation Office, one of the requirements that they would ask, or that they've said that we need to keep, is a feature that is zero depth entry. So that doesn't mean the entire pool, has to be zero depth entry. Part of the pool or half the pool could be zero depth entry, as well as another, like a walled off area, or So this is where we bring in the community to be able to say, how do we, under the constraints we have, how do we build a pool, a aquatic facility that is as close to possible as what the community wants, meeting the codes and meeting the restraints that we have to live within. Marie, does that answer your question?
Justin, to your point, we can share the codes that have been reviewed. We've shared those with city staff and the mayor, and we can bring those forward as to the constraints to meet the current code requirements for a pool this size in current shape.
I mean, if what you could do instead, just from like as an engineer, like from an engineering perspective, is ask the engineering firm to, as they come up to this code obstacle, to then come up with designs for like what exactly would be as close as possible to what we have. Like, what is the littlest tweak that you can do? And you know what I mean, to meet the codes.
Marie,
Like,
just, we can, again, we'll post all that information. A lot of it require more than just little tweaks. So don't get us wrong. We've looked into some of the avenues of how would we go about doing this? And again, we've encountered these obstacles. One of the reasons why we are reaching out to the community is because we have these obstacles with the Department of Health codes, the actual, the design of the pool, the logistics of it, so, of operating it. But we want to be able to have the community give us, we've heard, many individuals voice their desire for the same pool as it is. And it is a lovely pool. Aesthetically, it is beautiful. I'm here right now. Sunsets here at Lincoln Park are beautiful. But at the same time, aesthetics and functionality of this pool are two different things. And we need to find a happy balance between both of them. Marie, if you don't have any further questions, we'll move on to the next question. Lauren.
Our next raised hand is Kathy Fahey.
Thank you. This presentation, I have to say, it has been very disappointing. Most of the people on this call, they're taking the standpoint of, we want to keep the current design of this pool. And so what we want to hear, and you did a good job of talking about various issues with the pool, but I think people want to hear, and others have said this, what would have to happen in order to address those problems and keep the current design. And we want to know the specifics on that. We want to know the cost. We want to know, what would have to be done, where, what are the specific code issues that you might run into. And I don't think we've heard that, but I think you need to come. I think a lot of people here are feeling you need to come from the standpoint of, just what we would need to do to keep the current design. And we're not hearing that. And I think that's something that this community wants very much, for a lot of the reasons people have been talking about. You've got a historic, iconic pool here in the city of Albany. We've lost other treasures over the years, and people are not going to let go of something like this very easily. So we want every effort, and we want the information. We don't want to just hear about what the problems are, and what are some of the parts that we might be able to keep. We want to know the specifics. What would need to be done in order to keep the current design? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. We're going to be making sure, like we mentioned, where we'll post the information. We do have, Weston & Sampson was able to compile that information and present it to the city. This was an abridged version of that presentation. So the data that we have that Weston & Sampson was able to compile with the codes, the possibilities of how do we meet the current standard, and why it is essentially not realistic, but at the same time, we will be happy to share all that information with everybody, because this is a process that we want to make sure is a community driven process, so that we can get the best facility for everybody. Again, we'll post it at Lincoln Park Pool specifically. We'll work on posting it on our website, and then being able to disseminate it through the various channels that the city has in general. Lauren, let's move on to the next individual.
Danielle Hilly.
Hi. So I want to be surprised that this is the way that this meeting went, but there has been overwhelming support of the pool remaining the same and just replacing it with an identical version of it. I have a couple of things. First, I want to know if the chat that's occurring in this Zoom meeting is going to be saved, and if that will be available to PAC members. Second, I'd like to know if the presentation that was provided during this meeting will be available in PDF form on the Department of Rec's website so that people can view it. It's not, you know, if they're joining from a cell phone, it's a very small presentation. And third, I heard Justin say that some of the options were evaluated. Some is less than all. So to the note of Kathy and Dominic and Marie, are there more options? Maybe this needs to be put out to more engineers. Maybe, you know, there's only 2 pools like this in the country. I think the other one is in Arizona, and this is the larger of the 2. It's also a historic site. I can't imagine that this wouldn't be something that people, even across the country, would be interested in participating in build ideas and possible ways to address these code issues and address water turnover. It just seems like this is something that engineers would be willing to even jump on just to have a say in how to keep such an iconic and such an amazing piece of American history.
Thank you, Danielle. To make sure, you asked a few questions, so I just want to make sure, and I might ask you to repeat 1 or 2, but the first one was the accessibility of the chat questions in the presentation, correct? So the chat or the entire meeting here is being recorded, and I believe we'll be having that accessible to everybody, but I'll have to double check on that as I'm not the one retaining, but our department is. I just haven't coordinated with my staff on that as I've been focused on getting the aquatic facilities up and running for the summer. I will get back to you on that in particular, but it is recorded overall, so we will have it, which has the chat as well with it. Second question was related to
the presentation that Dan gave.
Yes, the PDF. Yep.
Yep.
Dan, we have no issue at the city giving this presentation and presentations for the community. We have no issue putting on the Department of Recreation website. Lauren, if you can make a note of that, we'll definitely go forward with making sure it's in PDF form on the webpage. I believe we already have a link set up, for this project, or we can create a link so that it has its own dedicated space, but we can make sure that's accessible to the community. And then your third question was about the engineers across
about exploring all, and maybe even putting it out to like a think tank option where engineers or even kids, there's really smart people in this country, and I think that people would jump on the opportunity to pose options that could actually work.
One of the with being able to put it back out to bid for other engineers.
No, I'm not saying out to bid. I'm not saying to go through that whole bid process. I'm saying like those options that they do for other things, like STEM does it. They build robots that way, all kinds of stuff like that. Like, can we put out, hey, this is the problem. We have a historic pool. These are the issues that we've run into. We're looking to hear from engineers who may be interested in what their ideas might be to be able to keep this historic pool, because we don't want to lose it.
If we were to bring anybody aboard, we would have to compensate them, and then we'd have to go out to a bid process. But we were awarded the bid to Weston and Sampson specifically to be able to help the city and the community answer these questions. So we will refer to them at this point because they are the ones who were awarded the bid. As far as I can tell from the individuals I've spoken to across the country about aquatics, this pool in particular is something of amazement. Yes, it is a wonder and it is beautiful, but at the same time, the functionality of it It's something not a lot of aquatic professionals necessarily want to be working on because of its the overall considerations that do not meet health department code. So when I said some before, I'm sure if we decide to spend every penny that the city of Albany has to be able to operate a pool, I would estimate that, if we spent all of our money to do it, it probably could get done. But at the same time, as a taxpayer in the city of Albany, as everybody else, I don't think that would be a prudent use of our funds to be able to have something that costs more than it's really worth. While it's a lovely and aesthetically beautiful pool, and if there is a way to do it, again, we want to be able to find that way. But from everything that has been presented and all the information that we have and all the data, it's not feasible.
I have one just last follow-up question, if I could. So this is being live streamed on Facebook. It's been shared many times. It's been shared by most of our organizations. Can we also find a way to incorporate those? I don't know. Can you guys go back and check through your feed if there's questions in there? I'm happy to collect the ones that are on my posts, but I'd also like that we take those questions and that the city creates, or Weston and Sampson creates some kind of an FAQ document.
Danielle, I think something happened to your audio. It's echoing and very low. I'm not sure if anybody else is having difficulty hearing, but I can't hear you and I can't see your screen anymore.
Justin, I think her question was, if I can reiterate, is she's asking if we can take outstanding questions either from the chat or from that's come into the department and prepare a Q&A page or a list of questions and how those answers are. And I think we can do that. So Danielle, if you have on your page other questions, you can bring them to the pack or share with Justin and Lauren, and we can roll them into a common Q&A page or list as necessary. Yep.
Thank you, Danielle. That's a great idea.
Our next raised hand is Derek Johnson.
Hello. My question is to the representative from Weston. If the awarder of the bid was requesting a fix of the current pool, would you have the ability to meet the request?
If the question was, if the request of the bid was to repair the pool,
so
as in the current configuration, correct?
Yeah. So if when you first came in contact with the proposal, if they were requesting a fix of the pool as is, would you have that ability to meet that request?
If that was the request, we were to first evaluate the condition of the pool and then work with city staff to determine either the most cost-effective or the most appropriate design for all the various needs from a recreation, from a user capacity, from a volume standpoint, then that design would be prepared for the city. The city simply requesting to replace the pool in kind is not what the request was, primarily due to their knowledge of knowing of all the severe issues with the current facility and configuration and issues they have ongoing. That's how it was framed on behalf of the city.
But and just to be clear about my question is, if you were tasked with the objective of replacing this, fixing this pool in its current state. Now you keep talking about the negatives that you did a great job of pointing out. I'm saying, in spite of those negative points that you made, with the approach that I think everyone is asking is to come up with a solution type of approach, and not just an approach to say, the pool is so big, because we've had conversations in the past that show that when there's smaller attendance in the pool, you don't use the whole pool. I don't think that I've heard it mentioned that it was never a drowning in the pool.
I don't
So-
know. Yeah, I'm not sure of your last question. Not sure of how many incidents there have been, and I think due to maybe the guards' coverage of the pool, I don't know if that's been an issue. But the question if this would be appropriately designed in kind, I think is more what your question is. If that were to be framed and given to us to be designed that fashion, as we have already done a code compliance check to see what would be required. As of our findings, doing that code review and research, it doesn't appear that the current configuration would it would not meet it from a turnover standpoint. That's one of the biggest components to make sure that the water is not stagnant or dead. That would actually be prompted not only at the county level, but up to the state code review level. And at this point, there isn't confidence that that would be accepted or approved at the state level for a water body of this size to meet the current code requirements.
Thank you. And the last question is, why was the chat disabled on the Zoom call?
I apologize. I don't have chat. Justin, I don't know if Lauren sees chat.
The chat is open.
Maybe if I stop sharing screen, others may.
Well, when I go to enter, it says chat disabled.
Lauren, did something happen that when we switched over to
I'm checking.
okay. While she's checking on that, Councilmember Johnson, do you have any other questions?
No, I just it just sound I'm pretty sure others felt this way. It was hard to listen to because it was just, you know, like staring us. It's almost like guiding us in a direction that clearly it was voiced that we don't want to go in. And I think that what people were looking for and hoping for today is the opposite of, you know, it's been very clear. We don't feel like it's a need to keep on going through various meetings. It's not a need to, you know, drag this thing out. I think we would like to know that, you know, our wishes are being respected in terms of what we want in terms of a circular pool, as, you know, as close to as it is now, and us being able to work forward together and figure out how to make it happen. So, you know, that's my frustration at listening to the person speak, because it just clearly, I feel like I'm getting stirred away from where, you know, we need to be. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson, and we hear the and acknowledge the frustration, and but that's with the data that we receive and we have the information that Mr. Dan Biggs here from Weston and Sampson has been able to find with his team and the professionals that he works with and, that do this for a living. You know, this was the reality they gave us. You know, the codes considerations. You know, updating the pool in general. While we are here to be able to vet out what information we get and how we can go about, again, the reality and finding that balance between functionality and aesthetic and, you know, nostalgia, to be able to find that balance is kind of the position we're in, because if the pool were to be built, I think Johnson said, if it were to be asked to be rebuilt as is, Weston and Sampson couldn't exactly do that because it does not meet health department code. And if it were to be rebuilt as is, it would not meet that turnover rate, which is a big sanitary issue and one of the primary factors of health department code.
Our next raised hand is Lynn Jackson.
Lynn, can you unmute yourself?
Hello?
Hi, Lynn. There you are.
Hi, sorry.
That's okay.
So the first thing I would like to say is that I look forward all year to be able to go and swim the red line of the pool. Now, I don't know how many people in the city swim in Lincoln Park Pool, or if Mr. Biggs has ever swum the pool, but there is nothing.
And tell them to not disable the chat.
Right. And yeah, the chat's still disabled. I think that the administrator can use the chat, but nobody else can. Oh, maybe it was just enabled. All right. So at any rate, swimming the red line it's just wonderful. I look forward all year to going down to the pool and swimming a lap or two of the pool. Now, I learned how to swim in my 50s, and I learned how to swim in the pool that the city did abandon. Bath number 2 is where I learned how to swim. So we already lost bath number 2, which still bothers me terribly. That's another topic. But to change this pool, this is like, you don't have, there isn't anywhere else with a pool like this. And I understand, I just cannot believe, I just can't believe that we can't fix this issue. So one of the things brought up is the idea of, lap swimming. Now, I know that in the previous administration, they did have a time that adults could go and swim the laps, swim the red line. And I believe they stopped that program. I mean, my hypothesis was in retribution for the community really wanting to save the pool in its current configuration, which is what happened, I don't know how many years ago that was, that they were gonna shut it down. But I think what we could do is, they talk about the depths aren't correct. Well, you could paint like a design on the bottom of the pool that you could still swim laps even if you closed off portions of the pool, or you could paint lines that showed like what the depths were. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could do that would take into account some of the problem, I guess, the issues with the pool. But I just want to talk about, like, as someone who lives here, like, I don't live very far away, this is such a magnificent place. And I just cannot believe that 90 years ago they could build this. Why can't we build it? Why can't we repair it? Like, I just don't, I will admit, I just don't understand. This is a beautiful place, and we need to have, obviously it'd be nice if you fixed up the lockers in the locker room, and yeah, it would be kind of fun to have other amenities. But this pool is so special, and Albany is in the habit of destroying so much of its history. It's like, can't we just save this? Can't we just save our pool? All right, I'll be quiet. I guess that was not a question, was it? It's like, I just feel so passionately about it. I mean, I want to know, do people in the city actually swim in the pool? Like, has anyone from Weston and Sampson gone and swum in the pool to see what it's like to actually be able to just walk in? Like, I was very happy when they put the handicapped accessibility part in, because it's true, if you have a wheelchair, you couldn't roll your wheelchair into the pool until they built the ramp, which was a wonderful thing. But as someone who, I'm pretty nearsighted, I don't see so well, and it's so easy to just walk in the pool, and there's no problem with knowing the depth of the pool because they have the ropes, right? You have the ropes there. So you know, once you go beyond the ropes, that's the deeper end of the pool. And it just to be able to walk in and walk out, like this whole thing about having to have a ladder, you know, there's a lot of issues with ladders, like they're slippery and they're sometimes a little hard to use, but just to be able to swim several laps of the pool and be really tired and just walk out is fabulous. Anyway, that's all. I guess I don't have a question, except does anybody swim in it? That's what I want to know.
Thank you, Lynn. To answer your question, does anybody swim in it? Yes, as an Albany resident, as somebody who's worked at Lincoln Park Pool in my college years, now as the deputy commissioner of the Department of Recreation and a lifeguard instructor, a lifeguard, certified lifeguard myself, I swim in the pool. We have, and we track the data. As of last year, we've employed our recreation management software platforms. Last year, we had a system in which we transitioned to a new system, our Civic Rec system, in which we track individuals who visit our facilities, and particularly the pool, so that we can track the data of who's coming in. We've gone forward because of the pandemic. Last year, it was only open to Albany residents. We are staying the same for Albany residents only this year. But we are able to say who swims and who doesn't, but also give that data of how many people are swimming, what times they're swimming, when we have those high spots and low spots. To address a couple of the comments you made, you mentioned the excitement, enjoyable ramp for the handicap, the ADA accessibility. That was a mandate of a code requirement. The ropes that delineate the 4-foot depth mark, going beyond that is 4 foot deep. That is a code requirement for all pools. So the things you highlighted are code requirements that if we are to touch the pool in a significant way, we have to meet all code requirements, all modern code requirements. When they built the pool 90 years ago, they didn't have these code requirements. And therefore, we were able to have the pool as is, which again, it's a beautiful aesthetic. And that's why I got into the recreation fields, because it brings the joy and the community together. It helps define our culture as a city, the city of Albany. And that's what I love to do in my position, is to be able to help build the culture. But we also have to live within rules and regulations that are put forth by the governing bodies such as New York State, the county, and the municipality as well. But overall, again, a lot of what you said, I hear you and I understand. And because again, I swim in it too. I swim in lakes, I swim in Lincoln Park Pool, I swim in Monte Cristi Pool, Arbor Hill Community Center Pool, the high school pool, Myers Pool. I hear you on it. It is a unique feature. It is a unique pool. And I think you mentioned no other place, or there's only, is a unique place in the nation, really. And it's unique because nobody else is going to be building a facility like this because, again, functionality wise, that's what most aquatic facilities work towards, because logistically, financially, functionality wise, a pool like this is not a sound investment as far as being able to do it. But again, if there is a way to do it, again, we are challenging Weston and Sampson to be able to get it. And that from the information they give us, it's nearly impossible. So again, I appreciate and I hear the feelings. And again, I wish it was just as simple as, just replace the concrete, fill it back in, and put the circulation system in. I wish it was that simple. Again, Lynn, I appreciate it. And again, thank you for swimming in Lincoln Park Pool. Thank you for your perspective. And if there's any other questions I can answer for you, please, let me know. And if you ever want to go swim with me, I'll happily, swim alongside you along the red line.
So when does it open this year? When does the pool open?
Our anticipated open date is this Saturday. However, Lincoln Park Pool in general for the past few years is day to day in general. So
I understand that, but it's usually open 12 to 7 more or less, right?
Yep, 12 p.m. to 7 p.m.
And how do you determine if somebody's from Albany or not? Because when I go to the pool, I just bring myself. I don't bring anything with me. Like last
year we had individuals, they had to sign up through our system, and in order to be verified, they had to be able to show a license, a driver's license, or a utility bill, or another form of identification that showed that they were an Albany resident. A tax bill. For students, we used report cards that had their address on it.
So why I don't understand. I mean, the one thing about Albany I always liked is, unlike other places you go, they would accept anybody. So you even ID little kids? Oh, jeez, that's
For
terrible.
the pandemic in particular, we needed to be able to perform contact tracing in order to open up.
Oh, I understand. All right. So
It's
do you
like-
have to do contact tracing now?
We do still keep it for contact tracing, but it's good practice, standard practice in recreation facilities in general to have a check-in system at facilities. So it is a way to be able to ensure that we are serving the City of Albany residents first and foremost. However, we do anticipate probably in the future years, we would reopen it back to the general public, to the masses. But at this point, we are still focused on making sure that we are serving Albany residents first during this year, during the 2021 season.
Okay. I mean, I just think little kids should be able to bring their friends. Never mind. All right, whatever. I mean, so I need to bring a piece of paper with me to go swimming this year. Well, I'm glad I asked.
Lynn, did you not go swimming last year?
Last year there was this thing called the pandemic, and I did not feel safe in crowds. Can't wear a mask in the pool. I am now vaccinated, so I'll go because it's outdoors and I'm vaccinated. But I didn't. I mean, and never before that. I mean, I can't remember the exact year I started swimming in the pool, but I've never brought any ID with me. I just, say hi and walk in, which is my view of what a public facility should be. At any rate.
Well, we do it similar to a lot of recreation, standard practices, as well as even the public library. Whenever you're renting out something or checking out something, you have to be able to scan and your account that you go with. But at the same time, we were open last year even during the pandemic. We had pandemic protocols in place. We were even applauded by our protocols by the Department of Health for how well we were able to execute our protocols last year. And we're hoping to have a nice, fun, safe summer this year as well.
I hope so too, because I feel very safe in the pool with all the lifeguards that we have. So
thank you. I'll pass those kind words along to them and let them know.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks.
Lauren, can we move on to the next question?
Yes, our next question is from Betsy Mercogliano.
Good evening, Betsy. And is that Chris with you?
Yes, and it's actually his question. I've just been agreeing with everyone who's frustrated, so he can say what he needs to say.
Yeah, Betsy and I are sharing the same. We're sharing her laptop. First, I want to say I agree 100% with Councilman. Well, both of our councilmen, previous and current, that this presentation was very carefully orchestrated to support decisions that have already been made. It seems clear to me that the Department of Recreation has a clear idea of what kind of pool it wants to see built, and they've amassed, data that supports what they want. So the first thing I want to say is that I've had several conversations with a local pool builder who has built large zero-entry pools, including one in Saratoga Spa State Park.
Victoria Pool.
And I shared with him the Weston and Sampson report on the current pool, fully documenting everything that's wrong with the current pool. So this builder already knew all of the specs of the pool, and he has more than once unequivocally stated to me that a large circular, he could build a pool in the current configuration, and it would be 100% up to code. There's absolutely no reason why you can't build a pool like we have with current technology.
And he's local.
I said that. He's local.
Chris, can you please share that information with us?
What's that?
Can you please share that information with us?
Yes, I already have shared it with the city engineer, but I can share it with you. Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, so there's no need to search out any other engineers or anything else. It's completely doable, 100% doable. Then as far as safety goes, I'm going to just go down sort of tick down the list of the reasons why the presentation said you can't build a large round zero entry pool. Safety wise, I want to point out that no one has ever drowned in the Lincoln Park pool in 90 years. It's a really safe design, actually. It's incredibly safe because it's very unlikely for you to get into, it's very hard to get into water over your head. There's no drop offs. There's no walls to fall off. You can't fall into water that's deeper than you can deal with. And
Chris, from as a certified lifeguard instructor and supervisor here, typically I would want to make sure everybody gets to ask a question, but I would say it's safe because of our lifeguards. We do not allow a lot of the free tearing swimming because of how much risk it is to actually swim in that pool. It is a waterfront style pool. It is massive. Again, we have to have 22. If the pool is fully open, code requirement says we have to have 22 lifeguards on the pool, monitoring, which with that, we even have to make sure that they're telling people, no, they can't do things that you'd be able to do at other pools. So we enforce rules heavily in order to make sure that people stay safe, because at no point do we want anybody to drown in Lincoln Park pool. So while again, that's more of a as a professional in the field and working with this facility in particular, we take safety very seriously here, and we have the lifeguards. They're directed to be able to be strict with the rules, ensuring that people go home safe.
And it works.
yeah, I'm with you all the way there, Justin. I'm glad to acknowledge the work of the lifeguards. I still reiterate that it's a very safe design. It's a very safe way to do a pool, and it's great that your guards do such a magnificent job. I wanted to speak to the lifeguard issue next. I recognize that a pool the size of Lincoln Park, the current pool, and its circular design means you need more lifeguards in order for it to be safe. I get that. So a point I've made numerous times, and I've spoken to Willie White with the city and a number of other people. I've spoken with Ashley Chappell. This is a great opportunity for the pool to start, for the city to start growing its own lifeguards. And I understand, Justin, you and Ashley have gotten a program going, and that's magnificent. So let's use this as an opportunity to train teenagers from the South End, from Arbor Hill, kids that need good jobs. And let's not look at this as, oh my goodness, we're gonna need 6 more lifeguards for a large circular pool than we would need for a conventional Olympic-sized pool. Let's look at this as a wonderful opportunity, employment opportunity for areas of the city who desperately need good jobs. This is a chance for kids to learn lifelong employment skills, job skills. Let's view it as an opportunity, not as a problem. Now, as far as swimming lessons go, I haven't shared this letter with you yet, Justin, but I know a woman who was a longtime swimming instructor at Lincoln Park Pool 25 to 30 years ago. And she wrote a lovely letter talking about how perfect a zero entry pool is for teaching swimming to non-swimmers. It is ideal, actually. Opportunity. It's the best setup for teaching, especially children who might be fearful of the water. It's just perfect. So there's no reason, this idea that you need to have a rectangular pool with walls and so on in order to teach swimming is just not the case. As far as programming goes, the idea that you have to have, again, a conventional Olympic style pool to have programming is just absurd. You can easily segment a large round pool into segments, and you could do, actually you could, in a pool like Lincoln Park Pool, you could be running multiple programs at the same time, and it would work wonderfully. As far as the competition idea and needing lanes and so on, I just want to say the city has 4 other pools that are Olympic style pools that have lanes and so on, that can be set up for swim meets and this kind of competitive swimming.
Which pools are you referring to?
You've got the Albany High Pool, you got the Myers Pool. Anyway, there are other pools in this, there are other pools in the city where you can do that kind of competitive swimming thing. There's no need to rely on Lincoln Park Pool.
Just for the record, we do not operate the Albany High Pool or Myers Pool. We do not operate those pools. Just
You could work in conjunction. They're public pools. You could work in conjunction.
I believe.
No need to add another pool of the same style for the same purpose. That's ridiculous.
I'm not trying to argue that. I just want to make sure it's known that again, those aren't pools that we operate.
Whatever. I don't care.
But you can work with them.
We do work. Yes, we do work with the.
I mean, come on. They're open to the citizenry of Albany. So
to my knowledge, they are not open to the public.
Yes. I think you're wrong on that.
As the athletic director, I'll confer with her on that one, but to my knowledge, they're not open to the general public where they can go in and swim at, on their, at their leisure.
In time slots. Let me see if, anyway, Chris. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to, sorry to cut you off.
That's fine. I just, to summarize, it's already clear what people want. And I just, there's absolutely no reason why we can't have the kind of pool that we want.
Send them the information.
And I will send you the information. I will connect you with the pool builder and we'll move forward from there.
Thank you, Chris.
Welcome.
Our next question is from John Davis.
Good evening, John.
Well, good evening. I reiterate that we'd like to keep the pool as close as it possible to how it is now as we possibly can. I'll try and make this really short. A lot of people have made the comments and asked the questions that I would have. I'd like to point out, and you don't even have to respond to this. As I was ticking through the problems for the pool, it seemed to me like almost all of them money can fix. And I know money is a really big issue, but it seemed to me the only two things that are like physically impossible that make keeping the configuration of this pool as it physically sits now impossible are demarcation of depth cannot be made up to code in this shape pool, shape, zero entry, round, etc. And the pool size and shape would not be permitted by DOH today. Okay, so this size and shape pool cannot be kept and meet code. I think what people would like to see is you identifying these problems and then coming up with solutions that hew the pool, the replacement pool, as closely as possible to what we have now. And I'm not an engineer or designer or anything, but I'll give you an example that may be fanciful, but it's like, look, the demarcation of depth cannot meet code. I don't know what the code is. You say you're going to send us the code, that's great. But something like you have a zero entry pool for 3/4 of the perimeter, and then you have a regular wall pool with ladders, to climb down and everything, and up to code depth demarcations or something creative, whittling away at the impossibilities of retaining the morphology of this pool while hewing as closely to the pool as possible. And that's the kind of thing that I think Kathy was saying too. She was really hoping to see a slideshow about how to replace this pool and keep it as close to the morphology of the pool we have here. And that's the kind of thing I think people would like to see. Nobody wants you to do things that are impossible or that would never be permitted. Most of us are pretty realistic, but we want you to do realistic engineering designs that overcome these obstacles while keeping the pool as close to what it is now. And thank you.
Thank you, John. And you're exactly correct as far as, that is the purpose of this, is to be able to get the community's feedback as far as, how do we, with constraints that have been identified by Weston and Sampson as, reasons why we have to move away, replace the pool to meet code, and to, how does it look? How does it keep as close as possible to the design? So John, again, your creative ideas is exactly what we're going to be requesting from pool patrons throughout the summer, from individuals taking surveys. So thank you for nailing it right on the head with, again, how do we do that? We're letting the community speak up on it. So, be able to give their opinions and their expertise if they have it. So thank you, John.
Our next question is from Robert Malerba.
So yeah, I am pretty upset with this meeting. I feel like it's been a bit disingenuous. I feel like it didn't include that we already did have all those meetings in the past, that people did give their input. They showed us 4 designs. They showed us one design very close or almost exactly the same as the present one, another one very close to it. There was an overwhelmingly clear response to those meetings. So I don't know if we're like having purposeful amnesia about those meetings and not mentioning them as part of the present presentation. The code violation stuff, it seems very vague, and I know you're going to get it to us, but I think this meeting could have been better prepared for if we had, and you're just going to get a charge out of people, understandably, if you just keep generically saying codes are an issue, codes are an issue, codes are an issue, and don't really give us something that we can respond to. So that way that the meeting was set up was not very well done. I have been a lifeguard instructor. I've been a lap swimmer a long time. 3 of my kids were lifeguards in that pool. Several of them taught swim lessons, etc. Justin, I don't feel like you're talking to a crowd that doesn't understand this stuff. We know what safe swim lessons take, etc. So I will say my main 2 points are, and it's been acknowledged, that the aesthetic of this pool is such that it would be better called Lincoln Park Lake than Lincoln Park Pool. It is so clearly, that's what is sort of so special about it. And this, to me, is a referendum on how serious Mayor Sheehan, and I know Kathy pretty well, and I know she's, her heart is in the right place about equity, but this is a referendum about equity for this area. We all know that this has largely become a pool that people of color swim in. I truly believe if this had anything to do with Washington Park and downsizing, say, their pond or something like that, it would never happen. I love all the previous comments and what John Davis practically said, if I have that name right, that there's only 2 issues that showed up at all. But you're talking about giving us a lazy river is like, there's such an ignorance about.
We're not talking about giving a lazy river.
That's one of the options up there.
We showed options so that people are aware of options that could be voiced, so that people can express opinions that may not have known of other options.
That's exactly what my point is. I feel that like that's a ploy to steer people and kids away from, kids aren't going to understand that what's important about this is the perspective, the aesthetic of this pool. The people who use this pool do not have the ability to go out of the city as easily and go to natural bodies of water, et cetera, et cetera. I'm a huge lap swimmer. I'm a huge distance swimmer, et cetera. I've swum like 4 miles around that pool at different times. I don't want straight laps in that pool. I want what is right for most of the people that use that pool, and I'll work around that. I don't want to, I think all of us will. And you could bring back the lap swimming by simply the way it was before, or something like that. I think ideas like lazy river, all that it feels like a ploy to me. And a wave pool is dangerous. We had a kid drown in a wave pool in YMCA. So whereas no one's drowned in this pool, someone drowned in several months of a wave pool being implemented in the YMCA in Albany that no longer exists. But they did away with that wave pool right after that young child drowned. And in terms of lifeguarding the pool, you know, the city has always had the spirit of hiring kids for jobs. And there's been too many jobs that kids have had that have been totally meaningless over the years. And I know all those kids, and they stand around and do little to nothing, et cetera, et cetera. Here are meaningful jobs that the city could offer to kids, meaningful jobs that the city offers to adults, the rangers, et cetera, that staff that pool, who the rest of the year are, say, school employees, hall monitors, et cetera. I know a whole bunch of those guys and gals and stuff. I've talked to enough of them over the years. And those are all meaningful jobs we would be downsizing.
We wouldn't be downsizing rangers because rangers don't oversee the pool. And for lifeguards, we wouldn't be downsizing lifeguards. We would be repurposing for programmatic aspects if needed. So,
well, if that's not an expense issue, then we're not going to downsize the numbers. Then we have what we need for that. So
well,
again, I'm gonna just finish. To me, this is a referendum on whether this city truly stands by equity for this neighborhood, or whether they're going to really give this area something much crummier. And my final point related to it is that all the years I've had people come visit this city, we go to the plaza and they go, wow, kind of wild, that egg and stuff like that, etc. Then we go up the Corning Tower and they look around, and by far the number one thing people have mentioned, I mean, I didn't start doing it, but then I started pointing it out after a while, is, believe it or not, that's a pool down there. They're like, what the heck is that thing down there? And now we're gonna take away this landmark for the city that, again, I'm gonna stop, but I feel, Justin, you sound like a good guy, but please don't give us like condescending responses, et cetera, about things that we know, et cetera, et cetera. Please, like that you're a lifeguard, you swim in all the pools. Why didn't someone swim in the pool last summer? It was because of COVID that we didn't swim last summer. We didn't want to take those risks. Please don't talk like your experience and value is beyond ours. It feels very condescending. I know you don't intend that, so please, along with that intention, don't do it. Thank you.
thank you, Robert. My apologies if any of my comments or remarks seem condescending. No, that is not my intention whatsoever. My apologies if that is the case, if anybody was felt that way. Thank you, Robert. Lauren, Robert, if there's nothing else, Lauren will move on to the next individual.
Our next question is from Simone Freeman.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I just really wanted to make a couple of comments and then ask you a question. Going back to the consultant's report about, the current conditions of the pool that warrant replacement, when was that assessment done for this determination by Sampson and Weston?
The Weston and Sampson, Dan, do you have
the original study for the issues of the pool, I think, are now 3 years old. That was the original assessment of the pool.
Okay.
And then we've been kind of working through the COVID period, and the code review was during this last spring and last winter. So I would say 6 months, but I could have to get a date as to when that was
All right. The reason, and thank you, the reason I asked that question is, just going back over, some history and some of the comments in the last sessions. I remember from 2018, obviously what was reported out today is essentially being reported out. What was reported out then in 2018 is basically unchanged to now. And the question that brings to me is that so much could have changed technology-wise that would present a different outcome, other than saying that the pool in its existing state cannot be salvaged. So that's a little concerning to me. The other issue that I also found is, I'm not sure who, if it's DOH, New York State Department of Health, or Albany County Department of Health, that is involved in the code enforcement. But I did come across an audit, I believe it was in 2017, from the Department of Health that audited all the pools across the state, significant pools that were operated locally and by the state, by local governments and the state. And overall, there was no mention of issues, significant issues or concerned about the Lincoln Park pool. So for me, to have it in 2018, a year later, and now you're repeating basically verbatim the same findings from the consultant, it just does not add up. And the speaker previous to me, Robert, he hit it on the head. This entire presentation for me has been one that seems an exercise in futility, because it seems that the city has already made its mind up about the direction it's going in with replacing the pool. So my question to you, Justin, if I can just ask for full transparency, I've not heard one person out of the entire speakers on chat and this input session indicate they were in support of having the pool replaced. And I know you mentioned there's a PAC set to discuss this and take into consideration all the community comments. So what I want to know, can you tell us with full transparency, is there an opportunity for the city to reconsider changing the pool? Is it one and done, or that the city hands down is going to go forward with changing and replacing the pool? Or is the city going to continue to be open? Because I'm getting conflicting messages, and based on how this entire presentation has rolled out, it seems to me that it's a finalized decision that the pool is going to be replaced. So I'm just asking you to go on record to confirm that.
So as of right now, we don't have funding to replace the pool. This whole project is to be able to develop plans in order to do, whether it's in the, whatever configuration is in the future, which is going to be dictated and driven by the community's input that we receive throughout the summer. We are setting up to be able to update the pool because it will not last much longer. So the configuration, how it looks, the programming, the functionality of it all, again, it's dictated and guided by the Department of Health codes that we have to adhere to, because we're going to be, we look to modernize it. And in order to do so, realistically, some changes will need to be made, but what changes, how severe, or what that might entail, we want the community to be able to help us make those decisions as to what the overall project might look like. But again, we don't have funding set aside for this, for an actual building of the project. We don't have the next steps. It's right now we're focused on this summer as gaining feedback from the community to be able to help guide, and from having everybody who enters in the pool throughout the summer give their input, to individuals such as yourselves to be able to give your input. We're going to tabulate all the information, all the data that we receive from survey responses, and then we'll take the next step from there, as outlined by Dan during the presentation, to be able to re-engage with the community about all the data we did collect. But even it's not a done deal as far as any pool being built.
Okay, you're still being circumspect, so I'm gonna come back to you.
Can you restate the question? Sorry.
Okay, I'm asking you, I said, is the decision already been made to replace the existing pool? You said there's an issue of funding, so no decision has been made. Funding aside, let's say funding does come about and there are funds to replace the pool. Will the city still proceed with changing and replacing the pools for all the other reasons that you gave?
Based on the data that we've received, if we were to rebuild the pool, it would have to meet modern codes, and it could not do that in the current configuration.
So basically, okay, all right. So it seems to me this entire process is somewhat moot. In the sense that the city's already, once funding is secured, going to proceed with replacing the pool, irregardless of the feedback. And I would encourage you to take a look at some of the commentary left in the chat session, because there are other similar pools that are in existence that are functioning. And I would also ask, you mentioned these guidelines by DOH, whatever they are, make them public, and be a bit more transparent in the process for doing so. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. As mentioned, those will be posted, and the data that we have received that helped bring us to this point where we're engaging community will be available for the public's view.
Our next question is Daniel Van Riper.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Daniel. Thank you.
Okay, great. Almost around 20 years ago, I think it was 2004, former Mayor Jerry Jennings wanted to privatize the pool. He basically wanted to sell it to one of his buddies. And basically people understood at the time that this privatized pool was going to be, this guy was going to milk it for a few years, and then it was going to sit vacant, and then it would just be allowed to fall apart. We understood that at the time. I remember that we had a confrontation with the mayor and his minions at the pool house. About 250 people came down to the pool house in pouring rain. I mean, it was pouring. And about 50 people spoke to him and told him that he had no business giving away our pool to anybody. And it was really interesting because when we walked in, they were all full of, smirks and smiles, and they had all these reasonable things about how the pump was leaking and it couldn't be fixed or whatever. And after all these people said, don't touch our pool, you should have seen their faces change. You should have seen their eyes get wide and their mouths open. And Jerry realized the depth of the attachment that we have to this pool. Now, this is a political issue. This, you can talk about all kinds of reasonable things. You can say, oh, let's be reasonable. Let's have a little pool. It's a lot easier to install it. It's cheaper. It's easier to run. But you don't understand how deeply attached we are to this. I personally, on my own, just made up a flyer. This is, again, 20 years ago. I think I let off about at least 150, maybe 200 houses up around the park, and alerted people. And I would hand these out, and people would say, "What? He wants to do what with our pool?" And this was every single person I ran into. Nobody wants this pool removed. Nobody wants this pool downsized or replaced. I think Mr. Biggs earlier made admitted that the city came to Weston and Sampson and said, give us some alternatives to this pool. Tell us, come up with some different designs. So he pretty much admitted that that's the city administration's attitude. So the thing is, trying to convince us is not going to work. We want to keep this pool. You could force it through, you could defy us, but it is going to be a serious political mistake by this administration. We want this pool. We want it the way it is. If you want to talk about certain modifications, you want to fix certain things, do things a little bit differently, that's fine. But we want the same size pool. We want the same shape. We want this pool, and we don't want to give it up. And you're going to hear this over and over again, just as you heard it 2 years ago at that charrette that the planning department put on up at Toast here in Lincoln Park. They had us put little dots on maps, and they kept saying, well, let's try, how about an Olympic-sized pool? How about this? How about that? And off to the side was, or keep it the same. Dot after dot after dot. I would say 95% of the dots ended up on keep the pool the same way it is. Now, if it can't be fixed, it has to be replaced. If there are code issues, they have to work them out. This is, I should remind you, this is not building something new, which strict codes have to follow. This is a replacement. And I understand this as a landlord, that a replacement is totally different from building something new. As a replacement, you can grandfather in a lot of things that you can't do with new construction. So I'm just saying, if the administration has the attitude that we can fix this, that we can keep this pool, then we will find a way. We can work together to find a way. But if the administration has this attitude, oh, we want to get rid of it, we got to get rid of it, the administration is going to run up against a constant firestorm from the public. We are not in favor of downsizing the pool or privatizing it or putting some fancy little thing with water slides in or something like that. We want this pool, and we want to keep it.
Thank you, Daniel. If you don't have anything further to say or any questions, appreciate your comments. Thank you again. Daniel, you're muted right now if you'd like to speak.
This is a political mistake, forcing this, trying to convince us of this. It's not going to happen. We want this pool.
Our next question is from Tom McFeeters.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you, Tom.
So listening to this and also observing the disastrous meeting about the basketball courts, I think the recreation department and your engineers are kind of writing the book on how not to get public input. You started out by talking about the water issue, which we all know is BS. The city has more water than it knows what to do with, and on and on. But I'm not going to belabor all that. I do want to go back to what Dan was saying and give you a little history back in 2004 and 5 and 6, when we were able to stop the city administration from doing a similar thing with the pool. And there were all sorts of promises at that point. Well, there's going to be a playground. There's going to be a picnic area. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. There's going to be lap swim. None of those things happened. And economics kicked in. And the pool continued to deteriorate. And the hours were less and less and so on. So my question is this. First of all, I don't believe that you don't know where the money's going to come from. There must be a grant source out there that you folks have your eye on. We need to know what that grant source is and how much money you can expect reasonably to get to replace this pool. Also, Mayor Sheehan will be mayor for another 4 years. After that, we will have another mayor. We have a lot of money to spend right now because of the stimulus money. That money's going to go away. The city's budget is going to get leaner and leaner. So the operation budget for this pool becomes increasingly important. And that includes the number of lifeguards, but it also includes whatever programming you want to do. The programming is also shrunk away. We need to have that information up front. And if you can provide that information, I think you will go at least part of the way to address the skepticism that you're hearing from decades and decades of people feeling like we've had the wool pulled over our eyes. Thank you.
Tom, was your question that where the money was coming from?
Absolutely.
So while I am not aware of any funding sources that have been identified, I can't speak on behalf of City Hall, who they may be working in the budget office to identify money. At this point, again, I'm only focused on the community outreach with the assistance of Lauren and Yasmin, as well as working with Weston and Sampson.
Well, that's an absolutely nonsense answer. If the city is not able to provide questions like that.
Because my focus right now is on the community outreach and getting the facilities actually running for the summer. I don't have time in my day to be able to do that, unfortunately. However, I would love to be working back towards making sure that there is a funding source. But as of right now, I am not aware of a funding source. But
you're not speaking for the entire city administration. You're just speaking for yourself and the rec department.
So
this is a question that you can answer at your leisure. You don't have to answer it right now. You've got this committee set up, and this is an important question for this committee to have. Where's the money coming from? How much is it? And how much of an operating budget are we going to commit to this on a long-term basis?
And those are all good questions, Tom. We'll work on getting you the answers for those, as well as the rest of the public for those financial questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. If no other questions, we'll move on to the next individual.
Our next question is from Joanne Morton.
Good evening, Joanne.
Hi, this is actually not Joanne Morton. I don't know why her name is attached to I'm Christine Carrera. I just had a couple thoughts. It seems, based on what I heard, that the city didn't hire the consultants to figure out how to design and create a new pool that was code compliant, but in the same configuration, and that could be sustainably maintained and operated. And I think that that's what the community is expressing that they would like. And I don't believe that it's technically infeasible to create that. There would be different systems for filtration and water movement. There would be, different designs for those kinds of things. The structure would be different. So I'm definitely in favor of building a new and better pool that functions and doesn't leak. But the community wants the same configuration, and I have a hard time believing that that's not feasible. I think it comes down to money. If this were an affluent community that wasn't a red-lined community, then I don't think that any of this would be an issue. And I thought it was funny that person spoke about swimming around the red line. I thought they were talking about something else. And I think with regards to the historic issues, what the historic status is also another source of funding. And what is presented to them is what they approve or disapprove. It's not about them deciding based on nothing. So if something is presented to them, they would give feedback based on that. And then if it met their requirements then they would agree to you be eligible for tax credit. And like everyone already said, there will be tons of money coming in to our our redlined community, and to kind of almost like reparations, the past inequities that's been this community's the recipient of. I think that it's really important that that the solution be designed with modern technology, state-of-the-art modern technology, and sustainable technology, and also technology that's healthy for the community and for the users of the pool, and fiscally responsible for the city. So I think that takes a lot of creativity, and I think job employment for the community is a win-win situation. That's already been stated, that instead of looking at it as a detriment, looking at it as a positive. It provides people opportunities to teach, to learn, to get jobs, to be physically more healthy, to address obesity and physical health issues. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for envisioning something better than what's there, but with the same configuration. So for example, there's it feels kind of hot there, so maybe some shady structures that are beautiful and clean, and then maybe there's a gym there, maybe the gym exercise facility become a state-of-the-art. Maybe it is, I haven't utilized it, but make it well known that the community has access to that exercise facility, and make it part of the overall amenity that the park is and will be. So the goal is to make it, if it were to be a resort, I don't think that any of these would be questions or even issues, right? They build these kinds of things for resorts and in affluent communities. So I think it's all feasible and all doable. And I think it's just a matter of, figuring it out. And I think that like somebody put in the chat, if we can send the rover to Mars, we can do this. So thank you. That's all I have to say. And I'm not Joanne Morton, I'm Christine Carrera.
Thank you, Christine. Just to verify, no question, you didn't have a question, it was more of the statements that you were making?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. We've noted, and we'll hopefully address again some of those concerns in the months to come.
Marie B, I see you have your hand raised, but you also put questions in the chat.
Yeah, I think I put questions in the chat. I mean, I don't know if they're able to be answered now or if you just want to do them later. I don't know if you're going to read through the chat and answer questions during this call, or if I should just ask them if I'd like to hear the answers now.
If you'd like to hear the answers now, because we are coming to the end of the time slot. We're a little bit over right now, but I want to make sure we get to these last few questions if we can. But once in the chat, we'll work on doing a Q&A sheet and getting towards our website and on a PDF form if possible. But we'll work on getting those answered and up for the public.
Okay, so my questions are, when Danielle was talking about like putting this out as an idea, like even just in other states, like she's just like, people would be excited to design this pool. Like, I feel like you're talking about it as if it's a hardship, but like what came to my mind was that why not make it be a governor project and have it be put out to all of the colleges throughout the state that do civil and environmental engineering and hydrology and hydraulics. And then and ask them to come up with designs and to like share with them all of the information that Weston and Sampson has done. Like I went to RPI, and at RPI, this could be a senior capstone design project. I do that on other things. The Troy waterfront RPI students did as like a civil and engineering design project. And they were they had the purview, they were privy to all of the design specs that the other consultants had come up with because they had reached a standstill on design. This is a common engineering problem to have a community want something different and to have to reevaluate what you're doing. So I just felt like you kind of were like, well, I mean, we're already with them. And so following up on that, I was wondering, what is the wording of their original bid when Weston and Sampson were picked? Because we keep asking that differentiation between, like, did you ask them to please try their freaking hardest to come up with the same pool as best as they can? Or did you ask them to come up with something cool? Like, what's the wording of the original bid? And how much would it cost to put out a new bid? And can that information be shared with the community? And then when you and I were talking, when I asked you earlier, you said that you asked Weston and Sampson to try their hardest to come up with an original pool, like close to ours. And then they came back with all these code issues, all these reasons why they couldn't do it. But did you ask them to take the next step to try their hardest, meaning money is not an option, and then to give you an estimate of what it would cost to build this same pool? And if they did, can you share that with the community? And if you didn't, can you do that now? Because clearly that's what the community wants.
To answer your question.
Go ahead.
To answer your question, Marie, when we did the first onset, we asked Weston and Sampson first and foremost, given the information that was given on the inability to meet code requirements, we discussed other alternate options. But then coming back to it in this past February, we asked them again to do a deeper dive into doing the pool as is, in which they were able to gather data and information that looked at possibly doing it again, the pool as is in the configuration. And the outcome was not likely that it would get passed, very not likely, and I'm talking less than a very small percentage that would be passed by the New York State Department of Health as far as being able to meet the code requirements that they put forth. So with that in mind, and again, it would, as I mentioned before, if we put all of our money into something, a pool that is exactly the same, it most likely probably could be done if we spent millions upon millions of dollars, more than we would anticipate replacing the pool. But is that cost, is that going to be worth it?
That's the question. What is that cost?
And that's where.
What exactly is the cost? Which pieces are you using? What pumps are you sourcing? Which components are you using? Show us their exact design so then we can share it with other engineering consulting companies across the country and get their feedback on other possible design issues. If you're not, as a city is not willing to take the step of finding a way to design a pool that I think maybe can be designed, then I don't, and the community wants it, it seems like we'll have to be doing all the labor of literally getting a design to you, like how Chris is saying, I know a guy can you just please call this freaking guy? Like, come on.
And great, that's part of this process, is being able to engage the community, to be able to help make better decisions.
Share the information with the community.
We will be sharing information with the community, yes.
So what's the estimate? What did they come up with?
I don't have it off the top of my head. We'll be working on getting that to everybody in all the, the Q&A, the fact sheet that we'll put together, included with answering these questions.
Okay, and you'll also share what the original wording for the bid was.
Yeah, I believe it's a public record. We can put that out. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem either.
Our next question is from Simone Freeman.
We're going to give about.
Hi, this is just a brief question for you, Justin. And it's very pointed. I'm wondering, although I know the answer, why the mayor, why the Commissioner of Parks and Rec, Jonathan Jones, and even Dan McCoy aren't present in any of these meetings. I understand you're the go-between in the committee point, but given the brevity and the impassioned feelings about this issue and how it revolves around so many issues around equity and our kids and the historic ramifications, and more importantly, you said you can't address the issues of funding. I'd like to know, although it's probably moot at this point, why they're not here and when we can expect them to be a part of this discussion.
From my understanding, I mean, we're doing community outreach right now, and when there is more substantive data to be, having a more, direct direction to move in, that is based on the community input, I'm confident the mayor, Commissioner Jones, Commissioner of Department of Recreation, Youth and Workforce, that they will be able to, be present with the information that's been gathered. So again, this is the initial step to community engagement and outreach to gather information. So we, once that information is gathered and we have more substantive data to be able to work with based on the community's input, including everybody's input tonight, I'm confident that the mayor and Commissioner Jones will be engaging the community directly.
Well, I will say I'm not a seasoned politician. I've never run for political office, but it would seem to me an issue such as this that's so pivotal for their constituents that they would be here on the ground, all hands on deck now. And that's what community engagement is. It's not getting engaged at the end of the process when the decisions have been made. It's getting engaged at the beginning to show that you care about what your constituents feel, you understand them, that you can answer pivotal questions, and that you're not passing the buck. So please, I'm going to ask you to make sure they hear that loud and clear, okay?
Simone, I will make sure that they receive the message, okay? We have about 5 minutes left, probably one, maybe two more questions.
Joanne Morton.
Hello?
Hi, Joanne.
Hi, this is not Joanne, this is Stacy. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I had put my question in the chat, but I guess talking about, I love swimming laps, and 15, 20 years ago, I was able to swim laps at Lincoln Park in the pool, and it was circular laps, and that was fine. And first, whatever funding that allowed that to happen was apparently cut out of the city budget at some point in time. And so I guess my question is, a lot of things are being promised, but we could swim laps in that pool again. It's just not in the budget. It opened up at 9 just for lap swim. And so how do we know that, first of all, can we do that again? because I think there's certainly an interest in that. And how do we know that these different things that are being dangled and offered are going to stay in a city budget?
To answer the first question, we will continue to advocate, from the Department of Recreation for a greater budget to fund more programs. But the budget being approved, through the Common Council, through the Budget Office, the process overall. Again, there's many other factors to be considered. I can't guarantee that. I don't know if anybody can really guarantee that, but I can guarantee that we will continue to fight for more programming, more funds to be able to operate more programming, especially aquatic programming. As somebody mentioned earlier, we're working with the school district to be able to help facilitate more lifeguard training. I taught myself 4 courses this past month and certified 38 guards to work for us this summer. But even that, we are short-staffed. I know this summer, we would not be able to staff a 9 a.m. lap swim. However, we would love to be able to do so. If we are able to, budget the funds, I would be nothing but happy to have more programming for the community. So I'll bring that request back to the city, to the budget office, to the mayor's office, to Commissioner Jones, and let him know that there is a demand and a request of more programming in the pool, especially for lap swim, in particular the 9 a.m. lap swim. One last question. I believe, Lauren, is that Willie White we have up next?
Yes. Willie White?
I'm there. Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, Willie, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I think I've heard some really good arguments and passion here about keeping the same pool, but I'm also hearing that the same pool cannot meet the codes that would be required. I also keep hearing that the community is speaking. And one of the problems that I've had over the years, that a few people speak for the entirety of the community, which I don't think is fair, which is one reason why I fought so hard to form an organization like a village that brought the community together on a weekly basis and informed them about what was going on in the community. I know a lot of people who swim in that pool that's just not on this call. So I don't think the community in its entirety is speaking. I think there's more work to be done to really get the voices from the community involved. And that's what we'll do moving forward. We'll get the people who really use that pool. And I'm sure everybody on this call, almost everyone, uses that pool, but the community is not speaking. Tonight, there's about 40 people speaking who happens to live in the community, but there's a lot more people whose voices need to be heard when it comes to the Lincoln Park pool. But I just hear all the time that the current pool is not going to meet codes. I mean, is that what you're saying to us, Justin?
Yes.
I've heard you say it 50 times already.
The current code, requirements, the pool doesn't meet the code requirements for the New York State Department of Health. So if we were to recreate the pool, it would not meet code requirements.
I see. So, I just think there's got to be a lot more outreach and get the other part of the community involved, and we go from there. This is a long way from being over. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Willie. And yes, again, today being the first, again, we'll be having community outreach opportunities at the pool all summer long, every day. We'll also be having a few more events throughout the summer in general, as well as looking at social media campaigns to be able to get feedback through surveying community members. So we look forward to being able to, again, collect data, including everything that was, the comments that were given tonight, as well as the questions and responses that were given from the community members. So Thank you, Willie. Thank you all. We do have one last hand up, and I do not want to let out for just one. So Danielle, I believe if you have your hand up, if you'd like to ask another question, please feel free to do so, and then we'll conclude tonight's meeting.
So I just want to make 2 points. One, you guys keep going back to what the community wants. I mean, the community has basically said the same thing. From what I've learned from this meeting, going back at least 20 years, they've all said the same thing. I know when this conversation happened back in 2017 or 18, as Dan pointed out, that overwhelmingly the community said that they wanted the pool to remain the same. And this meeting, while it may not include every person in the community, is reinforced what previous meetings have shown. So I would be really surprised if a larger outreach resulted in a much different outcome than this meeting. I also want to make sure too, because we were talking about those water features, I want to make sure that we are very, very transparent about the fact about what and if any of those water features would be able to be had if the pool stayed the same. I want to make sure, and we have to be very, 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 very diligent about ensuring that the community understands that if we say we want this, we lose this, because they may very well say, okay, you know what, I did want that, but I'm not willing to give this up for it. So we have got to make sure that we're not saying, hey, you could have a rafting pool or you could have a lazy river. That sounds great. But side note, you can't have the pool that you already have, which you said you wanted first. So please, please, we have to make sure that the community understands that amenities come with losses and that they cannot keep what they have if they say they want other things. So if we're not clear on that, really we're being very misleading, we're omitting intentionally, and we're not going to be providing the community with appropriate information, and that's going to result in backlash later when they realize that saying they had something or saying they wanted something cost them something they wanted more. And also, thank you guys for having this meeting. I wish it had come with a little, I think it could have been done better, and I hope the next one is better prepared for the community to continue asking for this pool.
Justin, can I say one last thing, please? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate the feedback and the information. Willie?
Just quickly. I think the community might even say the same thing. They want the same pool, but they need the opportunity to say that. 40 people can't make a decision for the entirety of the community. That's all I want to say.
And again, like I said, we are doing tonight, we are doing surveys at the pool every day throughout the summer for 5 weeks. And then we're also doing a couple other events. We are looking at collecting feedback and the responses from everybody that we can. So if everybody on this meeting is encouraged to be able to pass along information, so that way we can get neighbors, friends, family who live in the area, live in the city, to be able to speak on behalf of themselves. So that way we get the best picture possible of what the community is advocating for, whether no matter what it is. Again, the whole purpose of this is to be able to get the understanding of what the community would like as we look at the possibility of replacing the pool. So forgive me, there's a couple mosquitoes that have been flying around me. So if you notice hand movements, I've been swatting myself. But other than that, we want to thank everybody for coming this evening. Thank everybody for participating, all the questions, comments, the engagement. Again, we appreciate it. It's going to help us make a better decision help drive a decision, a community-driven decision. So very much appreciated. We're going to be taking this back and adding it to the data set. And Dan, is there anything else that you would like to say?
Nope, we appreciate the feedback. Obviously, it's a process. There's nothing that has been preformed at this point. So we'll collect our thoughts and get prepared for another PAC meeting and talk internally and set the next steps moving forward.
Okay. Again, thank you, everybody. If you have any further questions, comments, concerns, my name is Justin Atlas, Deputy Commissioner at the Department of Recreation. You can please feel free to send any questions, comments, concerns to recreation@albanyny.gov or my personal email at jatlas@albanyny.gov, personal work email, I should say. Or you can contact us at the Department of Recreation at 518-434-5699. And again, we'd be happy to follow up with you with any further questions you may have. Thank you again, everybody. We wish you a wonderful and happy summer. We hope to see everybody at Lincoln Park Pool at some point this summer, as well as our other recreation facilities in the city. So have a good evening and take care, everybody. Thank you.